This workbook is divided into a couple of different worksheets just to help improve the organization of the overall analysis. So if we look at the worksheet names, I've got a dashboard, which is going to have some calculations and a chart, and I've got a raw data worksheet. So this would contain the transactional data. So you can see here I'm on row 1001. I've got a whole bunch of data here, and I might not want to include my analysis here on this specific worksheet. I also, in other situations, I might have dozens and dozens of columns, and doing analysis with the raw data just might get really messy. So on this dashboard, I can create formulas here that refer to cells on the different worksheets. So to count the number of transactions, I can use the count function. Normally, we're just going to select a range of cells on the same worksheet, but here our raw data is on a different worksheet. So just notice what happens when I click on the raw data worksheet. Microsoft Excel inserts in the formula bar in single quote raw data, single quote exclamation point. That's the syntax that Excel uses to point to cells in a different worksheet. Currently, I am still editing the formula on my dashboard worksheet. So anything I click on is going to be inserted into that formula bar that's going into the formula on the dashboard worksheet. So let's take a look. I'm going to select quantity sold. You can see it's going to insert that reference to D2 there. Then I'm going to hold down Shift and down to select that range. I'm going to close that off with the parentheses. Now watch what happens when I hit enter, just to confirm that that formula is the way I want it. It's going to take me right back to the dashboard worksheet automatically. So that's helpful. You can see here that formula was entered right in cell B3. So let's do the same thing again, average quantity. So for average quantity, I'm going to use the equals average function. So then I'll come to my raw data, and I've got quantity where? Well, I've got to scroll all the way up to figure out which column that quantity is in. I could freeze my view. Okay, so you'll see I clicked on this cell. It's not the cell I want. Gosh, what am I looking for? I already forgot. Average quantity. So notice when I click on the different worksheets, my formula up in the formula bar just keeps changing. That's okay. We'll get the right one. So average quantity. So I've got this quantity sold. I can select cell D2 and do my shift and down trick. Close that formula off. And there we go. It calculates it for me. So if I want the total quantity, it's going to be the sum. Now I can type this in manually, equals sum raw data exclamation point. What was it? D2 through D1001. I think that was the range. And hit enter. And that will calculate it for me. So Excel's not doing any tricks really behind the scenes. You can type in the references to a different worksheet. Typically, it's better to click on the worksheet and let Microsoft Excel take care of it itself. Especially, selecting cells is very helpful to make sure you get the right range in there. But I'm just double checking the differences between my sum and average formulas, and I did remember to use the correct range. Now here's something. Let's just take a look. I'm going to rename raw data to raw data with no space there. And let's look at these formulas. Now there's no single quote around raw data. Excel only needs that single quote if there's a space in the worksheet name. Just something to be aware of. That's why sometimes you'll see those single quotes around the worksheet name in a formula, and sometimes you don't. If I go stick that back in, stick that space there, Excel will helpfully update my formulas for me. It's smart enough that renaming your worksheets is not going to break your functions, fortunately. So average unit price. average. So I'm going to click on raw data, scroll back up to the top. So unit price is in column E. So I'm going to hold Shift, tap End, tap down, close that off with the last parentheses. I'm not sure what the singular parentheses is. Parenthesis. All right, there we go. 5.83. So what's the total? We're going to use the sum function there. Again, pretty straightforward. Let's see, we were in column E, so I'm going to go from the bottom to the top. This time I'll use my mouse to select, and I'll just let it navigate up for me. It's good to select from the bottom to the top, typically, so you don't overshoot, because you've got the upper limit of row 1. Go ahead and hit Enter, and that looks good. And no, doesn't look good because I did the wrong function. So average unit price was in column E. So average total price is in column F. And it's not a sum. What was I doing? This should be average. And I'll just change the references here. This one, sum of total prices. So I say equals sum. Let's go. Total prices is in column F. So I'm going to do Shift and down. All right. I'm going to get rid of that extra decimal place there because I think it's too much. Okay, that makes sense. So let's check the solution. Do all my numbers line up? Yeah, they line up. I just made the decimal prettier here. Okay, so we want to create a scatter plot on the dashboard. And so right here below it, that has date on the horizontal axis and price on the vertical axis. Okay, so I am going to insert charts. I'm going to choose a scatter chart, and I'm going to select my data. So the chart data range, it's coming up for the dashboard right now, but I'm going to click on raw data. Notice that the chart data range is being updated. I know I want all my dates, so I'm going to select all my dates. And I wanted maximum number, data series, chart data range. Make sure I select the right thing. Let's check the dates. I'm going to try to slow down when I get to 1001. That's good. And the total price is in column F. So I'm going to select that as well, holding down the Control key to select those two ranges. And this takes a while because I've got a lot of data here. Looks good. I'm going to just go ahead and click OK. Dates and total prices. So the scatter chart is not showing me a ton of useful data right now. But this chart is accurately showing a scatter chart referring to cells on a different worksheet. So this is a good way just to organize your spreadsheet. Keep your raw data on one worksheet. Keep your, if you have a lot of summary functions, charts, and other things, you can put them on a separate worksheet just to keep everything organized.